Hello, 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 my loves. As always, I hope that this live or this replay finds you well and in excellent spirits. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of the weekly Astro Forecast live here in the Astro Room on YouTube. I am your host and your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. This channel is everything astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, or if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my loves, happy Monday again. This is the weekly astral forecast for the week of November 10th through November 16th, 2025. All right, so how are we feeling now that we are officially under the spell of Mercury retrograde? So, Mercury retrograde officially began yesterday. And I feel like you probably fall in either one or two camps. On the one hand, you may feel like everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and you may be losing your shit a little bit, okay, which is perfectly fine. And then others who are like, business as usual, right? So let me know in the comments or in the chat, how has Mercury retrograde been affecting you so far? All right. So for me, it's been pretty even keel. I mean, you have a couple of the little technical glitches here and there. But mostly I feel like it's just been a lot of messages, a lot of downloads. And that kind of makes sense because Mercury is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the sign of faith. It's the sign of like the higher mind, like the higher consciousness. And so perhaps messages that couldn't find you before, or messages that were trying to be downloaded before and just couldn't, maybe coming back around, right? So, you know, the thing about astrology that I think that we should all remember is that astrology, it runs the gamut in terms of how astrology plays out in our lives in a practical way, like practically speaking. Sometimes the astrology will be so high level, so esoteric. Other times it'll be very literal. And oftentimes it's somewhere in between. So while Mercury retrograde has these general themes, the way that it plays out in your life can vary, not only from person to person, but from Mercury retrograde to Mercury retrograde. You don't always get the same exact energy. You get the same themes, but they don't necessarily play out in the same way. And speaking of getting downloads and all of that, there's something that I was guided to share uh, regarding Mercury retrograde, because oftentimes, I love that we're a society now where astrology is fairly mainstream and people are talking about astrology and people are talking about Mercury retrograde. And of course, there's a lot of misinformation going around, but um, I think that people just automatically assume that it's going to be one thing and one flavor. And in terms of the astrology, I want you to keep in mind that Mercury retrograde will always affect you in two to three ways. Okay. So, first, wherever Mercury retrograde is actually happening, that's the first place it's going to affect you. So, for instance, Mercury is currently in Sagittarius. So, whatever house Sagittarius is in your natal chart, and remember, the houses are our areas of life. So, wherever Sagittarius is in your natal chart, and Scorpio, because Mercury is going to retrograde back into Scorpio during this particular Mercury retrograde cycle. So wherever Sagittarius is in your natal chart is the first area of life that will be affected by Mercury retrograde. But then Mercury, because it rules Gemini and Virgo, the houses of Gemini and Virgo in your natal chart will also be affected. So every Mercury retrograde, three up to three areas of your life could be affected. And this isn't to say that three areas of your life are going to go to shit or anything like that. It's just to get you to understand how the energy actually plays out. So let me use myself as an example. I'm a Taurus rising. Sagittarius is my eighth house. So that's the house of intimacy. It's the house of shared resources. So Mercury retrograde is definitely going to be emphasizing that area of life for me. But Gemini is my second house and Virgo is my fifth house. So the second house is personal finances. So that's an area of life that's also going to be affected by Mercury retrograde, as well as the fifth house, which is my house of creativity, romance, and children. That's also going to be affected by Mercury retrograde. And it's not to say that all three houses are going to pop off at the same time every Mercury retrograde cycle either. It could be one, it could be the other, it could be all three, right? But I say all this to say that when you know better, you do better. And so rather than just giving blanket advice or just blanket statements about Mercury retrograde, it really becomes a very personal thing when you think about how it affects you and your particular astrological design. So that was something that like hit me like a thunderbolt today that I was guided to share. So take a look at your natal chart, right? With this Mercury retrograde cycle. See where Sagittarius is. What house is Sagittarius? What house is Gemini? And what house is Virgo? This is where you're going to experience it. And then Scorpio, because like I said before, Mercury is going to retrograde back into Scorpio. All right. But either way, that's my little spiel on Mercury retrograde. So hopefully things are going well for you. And even if they are not, pay attention to what comes up because invariably, and this is another thing. Now, I don't necessarily feel like it is always intentional, but much like everything else, when mainstream society gets its hands on something, they always use it in a way that's not intended. And what I'm trying to say is, I feel like all of the your ex is going to come back or your laptop is going to break. I mean, those are things that could happen during Mercury retrograde, but to attribute it to only that is kind of a distraction from how to actually use the energy. And it's to revisit, reminisce, remember, redo, right? So pay attention to what comes up. Because even if, let's say, just for shits and giggles, let's say that you do have an ex that pops up during Mercury retrograde, right? It's not just your ego wants to take over, right? Your ego wants to say, oh, I'm over this person, or oh, now that they've come back, I'm going to reject them, or whatever your ego is trying to tell you, right? They're coming back for a very specific reason, maybe to get you to remember something. And I'm not even talking about something about the relationship, I'm talking something about yourself. They're here to show you something. It's not always the case that they're coming back in order to reestablish the relationship. They could be the messenger of a very important message that you need to work on yourself so you can move forward without them. Or maybe it is with them. Maybe it is to rehash a relationship, right? Those are all possibilities. But what I want you to understand that when it comes to Mercury retrograde, any retrograde really, it's that it's reminding you that everything is an inside job. Everything that you want, everything that you need starts with you first. And it starts with you going deeper, digging deeper, addressing the things that are in your inner world. And Mercury retrograde is great for that. So don't lose sight of that while everyone else is saying that Mercury retrograde is a dumpster fire and, everything's going to shit. Yes, we're in hard times right now. There's no beating around the bush when it comes to that. But if you take the energy and use it for what it's intended for, you can move forward successfully. And that's really the name of the game. All right. That's my soapbox. I'm getting off of it right now. But in any event, welcome to a new week. And it's interesting because last week there was so much astrological activity, so much cosmic weather. And this week there's barely anything happening. Barely anything happening, right? But we do have another retrograde happening simultaneously right now, which will add some color and some flavor to the Mercury retrograde, but it's not going to be as intense as perhaps Mercury retrograde is. And then we have an important transit that will sort of tie everything together. All right. But before we get into that, of course, housekeeping and announcements. If you are joining me here on the live this evening, thank you so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate you. Definitely say hi on the way in. And I want you to put A fire sign emoji. If you are feeling bold and you are ready to embrace the truth, because the truth is definitely taking center stage this week with the astrological activity that we have. So put a fire emoji in the chat if you are ready for the truth, if you're bold enough, if you're fearless enough to face the fire, and if you're watching on the replay, put a fire emoji in the comments so I know that you're listening and I know that you are ready as well. All right. And so, before I get into the details of the week, I do have a special announcement to make. So, if you are not new here, you know that I am in the midst of doing these series here on my channel. So, during the month of October, I did a 31-day money and astrology series where I brought you 31 videos all on various topics with money and astrology, right? And so as part of that series, I did a giveaway. So tonight, I want to announce the winners of that giveaway. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you so, so much. So many of you guys have commented, have reached out, have said that you are enjoying the series, you're enjoying the topics, you've taken the quiz, you have checked out Cosmic Collective, you signed up for the giveaway, and all of that is not lost on me. I'm so appreciative that you guys are not only finding value in this, but are enjoying it as well. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who participated and everyone who will participate because the beauty of this is, I mean, although the giveaway is done, the series is here to stay and it's really meant to be a repository of information for you. So it's not even the case that you have to watch every video one after the other. It's 31 videos on money and astrology topics. So any topic that piques your interest, any topic that you're curious about, that you want to know more about, that maybe you heard before but are confused about and you want to dive deeper, you've got a whole library of videos for that. And so use it, comment, engage, share, do all of the great stuff, right? But I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for those who have actively been here and been actively participating. I do all of this for you guys. And I'm so thankful for so many of you. I'm so thankful for the support. I'm so thankful for the love, the comments. And plus, I learn from you guys, especially when you guys comment about your particular placements. I learn from you guys. So I'm eternally grateful for your support. All right. And so now let's get into the winners of this giveaway. So, sorry about that. These are the two winners, all right? And these two winners will get a blueprint experience. So my signature natal chart experience, the blueprint, these two people will receive the whole thing, all right? And so the first winner is Jen Kia, JenKeah at yahoo.com. And the second winner is my moon vibe Scorpio at gmail.com. All right. So, congratulations to these two winners. I will be emailing you either tomorrow or the following day with instructions on how to claim your prize. And again, thank you to everyone who participated. I'm super excited, and maybe we will do this again in the near future. All right. So, let's see, do I have any other announcements? Oh, yeah, join us over in Cosmic Collective for our weekly lives. There's a whole bunch of stuff over there, exclusive content. I go live there every Friday. I like to call it my office hours because that's when you can ask questions. That's when I go deeper into the week's topics. I do a case study. So join us over there if you are interested. You can either scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, or you can hit up the link in the description box. But either way, it's lit. You get a lot of great stuff, and I'm super excited to see so many more people tapping in over there. All right, my loves. So, that's pretty much it in terms of announcements. So let's get into the energy for the week. And of course, we begin with the theme. And the theme is truth and tenderness. I love this because it's like The image that I got of this was like an iron fist in a velvet glove, right? And yes, we're in the midst of Mercury retrograde, and we also have another retrograde that's happening beginning tomorrow. But the truth, yes, it can hurt, yes, it can sting, but ultimately it sets you free. And at the same time, I'm not going to say we're necessarily being given the truth, with a hug. But there is an element of emotional nurturing that is present with the astrology this week. And so it could mean that you want to experience more emotional nourishment. You are focused more on your emotions, more so than your logic or anything else. But there isn't an emotional component to the energy this week, and you should lean into it. Now, that emotional component could be a little intense. Again, because we've got Mercury retrograde and we've got another retrograde. So it could be themes from the past. It could be wounds from the past. It could be thoughts. It could be conversations from the past that elicit an emotional response, that trigger you emotionally, but ultimately bring truth. And truth brings clarity. And there's nothing better than clarity. I was thinking about that as I was preparing for this live. I was thinking about just the truth in general and how, at certain points, well, I'm just going to explain it in the best way that I can. I'll never forget, I was dating somebody, and I remember to this day, and this was over a decade ago, this was in the early 2010s. No, it wasn't even the 2010s yet. Oh my God, that's how old I am. It was probably 2008, 2009. And I remember to this day, I still remember where I was, what I was wearing, who I was talking to, who I was around, the minute I found out that he was cheating on me. And not only was he cheating on me, he had gotten somebody else pregnant. And that truth hurt like you would not believe. But the clarity that came after that, unmatched. Yes, it stings in that moment. But when you finally know something, and I mean really know it. Now, there's two kind of knowings, right? There's the intuitive knowing, which oftentimes we may ignore. But then when that logical mental knowing sort of is validated, it's not only the clarity, it's the relief. It's the relief, especially I feel like sometimes your intuition is relieved because your intuition is like, girl, I've been trying to tell you this for a minute. Right? Every time you spoke to him, every time you talked to him on the phone, your stomach would hurt because you could tell that he was lying, but you didn't want to believe it, right? And the moment you find out, you're like, it hurt. The hurt is sometimes unbearable, but invariably, it's usually followed up with relief. Like, I know now. And in that clarity, you can sever ties or you can take action, and that action is informed action, right? So, regardless of whatever transpires right now, I say all this to say, and it's not to, I don't want to scare you. This isn't to say that this week is going to be like that. The example I gave is not necessarily indicative of the energy. It's just the best way I knew how to describe how the truth can feel sometimes. A truth that will elicit an emotional response, let's say that. But um, whatever does transpire, understand that the end game is clarity. Clarity is the name of the game. Because again, we want to be able to take informed action. And with these retrogrades happening, again, everything is an inside job. And as much distraction as there is going on, especially right now, you may want to start thinking of the retrogrades as like a saving grace because it's kind of forcing you to limit those distractions, or at least not to give those distractions your full undivided attention. because essentially shit from the past is going to come up and you kind of have no choice but to deal with it, right? But either way, I don't even know if I should have called this live truth and tenderness because it may not necessarily be all that tender, but it can be, right? It can be. It can go either way. Okay. So actually, before I get into the astrology for the week, let me pull some cards, given that I'm talking about truth and tenderness and people cheating and shit and emotional triggers. Like, let's see what spirit has to say about the energy for this week. So I'm gonna pull 3 cards and see what else we need to know at this time. Okay. We've got the 6 of Swords. Oh, and by the way, yes, I'm using this Halloween tarot until the wheels fall off. Funny enough, like I already have like my mini Christmas tree up and I'm using Halloween tarot, but hey, that's just how I'm living right now. But in any event, 6 of Swords. This is moving on to calmer waters. This is what you do once you have clarity. You know which direction to move in. And what could have seemed like chaos, what could have seemed like the fog, what could have seemed like a tempest or tumultuous waters is leading to a clarity that moves you into calmer places, into a regulated nervous system, into quiet time, maybe. Not only is this the truth, this is indicative of the retrograde energy. What I was just saying before about limiting distractions and getting quiet, right? Like I feel like this card is indicative of that. So the good news is that this clarity the calmness comes with this clarity, right? It's like you get off the hamster wheel, you get off the merry-go-round, and things quiet down. Now, it could be that outside circumstances force this on you. Let me not say force, influences you to do this, or this could be you being intentional about doing it. But either way, it's happening. Okay, yeah, we've got Knight of Swords. And this Knight of Swords is really it's coming towards this 6 of Swords, right? So swords are air, right? Air is communication, it's thoughts. This is definitely Mercury retrograde at play. And this person is coming in full force, right? Like they're coming in with a truth. This could be someone from the past. And again, doesn't have to be a romantic partner or an ex or anything like that. This could just be it's giving messenger. Like there's a message that's coming into you pretty quickly, maybe even abrasively is what I'm hearing, but it gives you that clarity that you need. Now, you see how this person has a pumpkin for a head? Um, it could be the case that the identity of this person, I'm not going to say it's unknown, but it's not relevant. So, meaning, you know that phrase, don't kill the messenger, right? Spirit is like, I want you to take the message, not the fact that the messenger brought this message. The messenger is irrelevant. So somebody could be saying something to you that does elicit an emotional response. Your focus shouldn't be on, I can't believe they said that, this, that, and the third. And then you just take all that energy and project it onto them. Maybe not even project it onto them, but use that energy to focus on them. It's not about them, it's about the message. Okay. This is also giving, this is oddly specific, but this could be relevant to somebody. Somebody has something important to say to you, and it may not be something that hurts. It just may be someone opening up to you about something. But they're either afraid or they want to stay hidden. So rather than like FaceTime you or even, call you on the phone, they may do it by text, they may do it by email because they just can't like face you and say this thing. And it could be a moment of vulnerability for them. They're trying to muster up the courage to say something to you. But they kind of want to remain hidden or anonymous. But either way, I mean, in that situation, the messenger is relevant, especially if they're opening up to you. But if someone is telling you something that's hurtful or triggering, spirit is like, it's not about them. It's about what they have to say and the truth that they're either uncovering, the truth that they are getting you to remember. That's what's the most important thing here. Get one last card here. We've got two. Okay. So we've got an emperor. Okay. And we've got the Two of Cups. Okay, so this could literally be an emperor coming back to tell you something. Okay. Whoever this emperor is, now you could have been in relation with this person. This doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but there is a sort of emotional element to this relationship. It could be friends, it could be business partners or anything, but there's this mutual vulnerability. Now, that vulnerability could be emotions, it could be money even, but there's this relationship, okay? And this emperor has something to say, but they're being very strategic about it. The emperor is like a general, okay? They only make moves that they have strategized. Yet, this person can be impulsive. So, they may it may be a knee-jerk reaction that gets them to say this thing to you, or that gets them to speak to you or send you this message. They seem to be struck by something. Something has triggered them, and in that triggering, they're coming to you to say something. Or it could be vice versa. It could be you being emotionally struck or triggered by something, and you are either the bearer of bad news or you're the one who's being vulnerable, right? Take it as it resonates. But either way, there is this element of like strategy almost. That's what this really feels like. Someone who, more so than not, this really feels like someone who needs to get something off their chest. And as I was saying that, I coughed a little bit and I felt something like right here, like an inability to speak up, an inability to say what needs to be said. And this could be of an emotional nature or it could have something to do with any relationship. Okay. For instance, we're in the midst of Mercury retrograde. If you have a business relationship with someone, or if you have a relationship with someone based on a contract, maybe they want to speak to you about the details of that contract or a facet of that contract, or maybe where you breached that contract, right? It could be like that. Or it could be of a more friendly or even romantic situation. But either way, someone's got something to say, and it may be a little difficult to be said. Now, the bottom of the deck, we've got the Nine of Wands. This is so the person receiving the message is obviously a little guarded. And they're guarded because they're either going through a lot right now, or spirit could really be putting you through the gauntlet at this point in time, is what I'm hearing. Like you feel like, damn, it's one thing after another, after another, after another. But this particular conversation, this information is super important. And why? Because this is what's going to help you move forward into calmer waters. That's what you have to keep in mind with this whole thing. This person, whoever they are, whatever they have to say, they're not doing it for no reason. They're not doing it just because they're an asshole. You know, one of the lessons that's been challenging to learn, but once I learned it, it made my life a whole lot easier. Oftentimes, people are just the conduit for things. It's not them. Yes, they're the ones opening their mouth and having the conversation with you. They're really just the vessel by which the message or the lesson or the catalyst is coming. It's not personal. It never is. They're just the message that you need to hear. They're just the trigger that you need to feel. They're just the person that needs to get you to open up. It's not about them, it's about the message. And it's like spirit wants you to remember that so hard right now, because it's almost like this, whatever they're coming up to you with, This is what's gonna set you free. This is what's gonna get you off the hamster wheel. This is going to bring you into calmer waters. So take it as such. Okay. And yes, you may be going through a lot right now, but this is important. Whatever this person has to say is important for you. Okay. So again, take it as such. All right. So that is the message for the week. Now let's get into the astrology and see exactly what we've got going on. And first, we've got Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So this is the tenderness part of the truth and tenderness theme for the week. Okay. Now, Jupiter retrograde, it's definitely not the same flavor as Mercury, all right? Mercury is a planet that is closer to us, okay? And it's a personal planet. So we feel the effects of it a lot more. However, Jupiter is huge. It is the biggest planet in our solar system. And so even though it's further away from us than Mercury, we still do feel the effects of it. Actually, Jupiter is known as an interpersonal planet. It's halfway between the personal planets and the outer planets. So, when it comes to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, when it is direct, when it's just doing its thing normally, is exalted, meaning that the energy is super favorable, it's super potent, and Jupiter is the greater benefic. Jupiter is the bestower of abundance, of good luck, of good fortune. And Jupiter in Cancer is like finding that fortune when it comes to home, when it comes to family, when it comes to emotional nurturing, right? Jupiter in Cancer very much speaks to perhaps a prominent woman in your life, maybe, who is like your lucky charm. That's kind of what I'm getting right now. And perhaps they're the one that nurtures you. They're the one that they're the shoulder that you can cry on. They are your source of emotional strength, even. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer wants you to find the inner strength, the strength that is within yourself, the emotional strength, the emotional fortitude, the emotional abundance. You have that within you, and Jupiter retrograde wants you to find that. It wants you to develop that because that's where your abundance lies right now. I said before, everything is an inside job, and Jupiter in retrograde in Cancer is very much about that, right? Addressing your inner world, perhaps planting new emotional seeds, tending to your emotional world, right? Developing all of that is very characteristic of Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. Now, when you put Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius at the moment and Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, this is why emotional matters could be coming back up right now. So you want to take a look at where Sagittarius is in your chart, like I said before, but you also want to take a look at Cancer. Whatever house Cancer is in, this is where Jupiter is getting you to look within, to find the jewels within, to find the emotional nourishment, the emotional wellspring within. Okay. And so that's why I feel like things of an emotional nature can be coming back up right now, but they're coming back up for your good. That's indicative of Jupiter energy. Okay. And I'm being guided to say this. It's like this could very much be a woman, a mother figure for some of you that is speaking to you, giving you advice, coming back around, or you're finding out the truth of a woman in your life. Okay? That's not for everybody, but definitely I think for some. Um Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, it's emotional expansion through reflection. Jupiter expands everything that it touches. And when it's retrograde, it wants to expand you from the inside out. It wants you to grow emotionally. And we all know what it feels like to grow emotionally. It requires us at times to either feel emotions we've never felt before or revisit emotions. And especially in this case, with Jupiter being retrograde, it's about revisiting emotions that we haven't in a long time. And these emotions could be related to our basic emotional needs like love, acceptance, security, mothering, mother issues, motherhood, right? Revisiting those things in order to expand yourself emotionally. And Cancer can be a very tender sign. It's a very healing sign. It's a very nurturing sign. And so the tenderness part of truth and tenderness is to be tender with yourself, to not only give yourself grace, but to be patient with yourself. If you were working with a small child, if you were helping them work through big feelings, right? How would you treat them? That's how you would want to treat yourself at this time. So if you find that you are working through big feelings and big emotions, because again, Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. So this expansion, this remembering, this reminiscing, oh, it's going to be big and perhaps profound, right? Be tender with yourself. Okay. Be tender, be loving, and be nurturing. And even if you are the person who's bringing the truth to someone else, be tender and nurturing with it, right? This is it's kind of this weird juxtaposition because Sagittarius energy, which again, which is where Mercury is retrograding right now, it can be very blunt. It's very blunt. It's a fire sign, right? So fire signs can be very direct and very blunt. But that Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is asking you to soften things a little bit. You don't have to be so harsh. You don't have to be so blunt. Be tender with yourself. Be tender with others to the extent that you can. Okay. And then speaking of Sagittarius, the next thing that we have, and the only other thing that we have for the week, is Mercury conjunct Mars, and both of them are in Sagittarius. Okay. Um, and so this is the directness that I was talking about, right? But this is this desire and this passion really for more, especially wherever Sagittarius is in your life right now. It's this desire for more, this hunger for more. And this hunger may be a desire from the past or a thought from the past, because again, we're talking about Mercury and Mercury's retrograde right now. This desire for more could really be your soul's calling, not just for expansion, but for travel. And when I say travel, I don't mean like going on a vacation. It's just like not being where you are. That could either be physically or it could be like a state of being kind of thing, meaning that, you're tired of where you are. You're tired of your physical space. You're tired of the state of your life, right? And you want more. You're hungry for more. And this desire may have you looking back, looking in the rearview mirror to see where you've been, what you've done, what you've experienced, what you've learned. And I really do think that that is the key to moving forward, right? What was the card that I pulled before? Yeah, the Six of Swords, that movement into calmer waters, that movement off the hamster wheel, off the merry-go-round. Like some of us may be feeling that way. Like we're over it. What we've been doing, what we've been experiencing, where we're physically at, where we're at in our lives. It's time to start something new. But inherent in that newness and that desire and that hunger for more is you got to look in the rearview mirror and see certain things for what they truly are. This is where the truth comes in. Um, it could really be understanding a situation and it finally brings some sense of closure, right? And now you can move on. Sometimes, Mars can be very impulsive. And when we're hit with that Mars energy, we want to move and we want to move now. And we want to move directly, shortest distance between point A and point B. And then Mercury retrograde could really slow that down. And oftentimes things can be slowed down for a variety of reasons, right? But sometimes you're slowed down or you're blocked because there's something that you need to understand. And without that understanding, that movement forward is not going to be what you think it is. So let's just use an example, right? You've lived in your town, your city, like forever. And recently you've been in a relationship and it hasn't been going that well. And you're like, listen, I'm tired of this life. I've been here for the longest time. I've been with this person for the longest time. I want to move. And maybe your relationship hasn't been going that well. And maybe there's been distance between the two of you. And you're just like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to move because we're not getting along. We're not talking like we used to. This person doesn't want me anymore. I just want to get as far away from my life as possible. And let's say you start looking at jobs in a different city, right? Or a different state, right? Or even a different country. You're looking for a partner. You're trying to put all the pieces together. You're actively taking steps toward this move. That would be Mars in Sagittarius. Actively taking steps, taking action. Yet Mercury retrograde is like, oh, your application gets denied. Oh, there's three other candidates that are, in line for this position. And you're just like, what the hell? It's like, I feel like I need to go. I feel like whatever. And then finally you have a conversation with your partner, and your partner's just like, listen, you know, I the only thing that's coming to my I don't know. Sometimes spirit be giving me these soap opera type stories. But you finally have a conversation with your partner, and your partner's like, I have a physical ailment. Like I haven't been feeling well. I haven't known how to say it to you, how to talk to you, so I've just been distant. It's not you, it's me because I'm going through something right now. And you're like, "Damn, okay." And it's not to say that that changes your mind, but that's helpful into information to know because maybe you still have the desire to move, but maybe you thought your relationship was over and it's not. And that truth can be hurtful if you find out that your partner, God forbid, has cancer or something like that, right? That's tough. That's real tough. But it's a truth that needs to be had, that needs to be expressed. Okay. So that's kind of how that could work. I mean, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, but don't be surprised if amidst all of this stuff coming back from the past, you have this desire for more, this desire to move forward, this desire to change your situation. And perhaps impulsively, right? Because that's how Mars works. It's not like you've sat and thought this for a while. You just could have one shitty day and you're just like, yeah, I want to leave this job. I want to leave this relationship. I want to leave this house, right? And it's not to invalidate that, but that's the realm of Mars, that impulsivity. So it's not to say that you should ignore this hunger for more. You just have to observe, watch, and listen what is coming up. What's coming back around? What are you even remembering? Sometimes Mercury retrograde isn't this whole thing where, people are from the past or saying things. Sometimes you could literally just have like a thought from the past. Like you remember something. Like, oh, I remembered that I like this type of cake from this bakery. Yo, astrology can be real low key like that. It can be very literal. It can be very, you know, mundane. It doesn't always have to be this existential thing or this huge issue, right? But like I said, don't ignore that desire for more, that hunger for more. Just observe what's coming up and allow it to inform you. So, if and when it is time to move, to take action, you're doing it from a place of being informed. And it's not just impulsivity. Mars conjunct Mercury conjunct Mars is looking before you leap. Mars will just have you leaping and not giving a fuck. Mars can be really reckless. Mars can be very impulsive. It's just go. And Mercury's like, yo, slow down. Whoa. Can we figure out where we're going, how we're getting there? What are the details? Who needs to come with us? Do we need snacks? Like, Mercury is going to have you thinking of different things, aka looking before you leaping. So lean into that. Lean into that. Mars feels pretty good in Sagittarius because it is a fire sign. So there's this element of spiciness, of spontaneity, dare I say recklessness, okay? But Mercury, especially Mercury retrograde, is going to rein that in. So to conclude, because am I concluding right now? I usually have a whole bunch of other stuff to say, although I feel like that's kind of where I should conclude. So to conclude, oh no, I'm going to do the journal prompts and the affirmation in a minute. All right. But to conclude, number one, the truth shall set you free. And the truth is going to bring clarity that's going to allow you to move forward into calmer waters, to get off the hamster wheel and get into a place that feels better. Number two, be open to messages and don't kill the messenger when they bring them to you. And number three, don't ignore the hunger for more. Just make sure that you look before you leap. All right. So that's the energy. That's the energetic breakdown for the week. So let's get into tonight's journal prompt. All right. So this is what you should meditate and think about this week. What truth am I finally ready to express, and how can I say it with love? Or conversely, what truth am I finally ready to receive, and how can I receive it with love? Truth with tenderness. That's the whole thing this week, right? So think about that. Especially if you find that your mind and your memory are jogging back to a particular person or a particular situation. What truth is trying to come through there? And how can you express it or receive it with love? So screenshot this, come back to it. This is a great journal prompt to think about this week. Okay. And our affirmation for this week is: my voice is powerful, my heart is wise, and my truth is healing. I'm going to say that again. My voice is powerful, my heart is wise, and my truth is healing. All right, beautiful words to affirm this week. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this week. All right, hopefully you're able to take at least one piece of information that you could use going into this week and beyond. All right. For everything about me, everything that you need to know, anything you may be interested in, that's all linked in the description box below. Don't forget to tap into the Love and Astrology series that's going down all November. Every day I drop a video at 7 p.m. on a new topic. You can peruse the topics at your leisure. And again, I'm building a separate library. So the first library was about money and astrology. The second library is love and astrology. All right, so tap in if you feel called to do so. And again, thank you for your love and support. Congratulations to the giveaway winners. Again, I'll be contacting you later this week. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you. All right, my loves. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place, same great astrological information. All right, my loves. Take care.